Hi, Right Writers, Cruz here. Thank you so much for joining me. In this video, we are going to be writing a persuasive essay on the following topic. People should pay extra tax when they buy drinks in plastic bottles. In the 20 minutes, we will be writing an introduction paragraph, a body paragraph, and a conclusion. We will also include a counter argument within the essay itself, whether it be in the body paragraph or in a separate body paragraph, also within that 20-minute time frame. If this is something that interests and inspires you, please stay tuned. If not, please suggest this channel to other people who may be interested in working with someone who is constantly writing online and writing under time constraints. Thank you so much again for joining me, Right Writers. Let's go ahead and get this timer started. We have our topic. Obviously, what's interesting about this topic, and it's very similar to a previous topic we've seen, and that is that the prompt itself already encourages us to go ahead and take a position. So we are supporting the idea that people, in fact, should pay extra tax when they buy drinks rather from in plastic bottles. So let's take a look at how we construct our introduction and then use that same introduction to construct our conclusion. So I want to create, Right Writers, some imagery. So be thinking about sight, sound, smells, taste, and touch. When you're thinking about, a topic such as plastic bottles, when we're thinking about where do we see plastic bottles, we see them floating in our waterways. We see them chucked, out the side of the road or on the side of the road, thrown out, chucked by someone. Or maybe the plastic bottle has flown out of a truck or a car, and we see the plastic bottles littering the roadways. We could also think about how plastic, and part of this is maybe connected to Netflix documentaries that I've seen, but we even ingest plastic. I mean, we have plastic inside of us. Mammals, marine wildlife have plastics inside of them, and I don't just mean mammals, but marine life also have been obviously found with plastics inside of them as well, and even land animals, plastic. So this is something that is ubiquitous within our society. It just seems like we are surrounded by plastic. And I know you're thinking she's talking an awful lot. When is she going to start writing? But I want to make sure that I do this sort of explicitly. So I'm thinking aloud. I'm basically saying aloud what I'm thinking, and then I'll start to type as I formulate these ideas. So this is a conversation that I might be having in my head, which is sometimes why it sounds a bit odd or I mess up. It's just because, again, when you're talking to yourself in your brain, you kind of interrupt yourself and think about other things and start, going into tangents and thinking about, oh, what about this and this? So let's go ahead and get started, Right Writers, and be thinking about, I guess, this idea of, how we see plastic bottles. Plastic bottles, and I'm just jumping into the topic right away. Time permitting, I may create sort of an ease in sentence where I ease into the topic, but I'm going to go ahead and be a little bit more bold and perhaps abrasive to some by jumping in right away. Plastic bottles have invaded our planet. They can be found on our roadways, waterways, and even our bodies. Um, these bottles also end up in many of our sea and land creatures. Sounds a bit odd, but I can always adjust that later. These bottles also end up in many of our sea and land creatures. In various species. Who make the sea and land their home. Why have we become so inundated with all this plastic rubbish? Part of that blame rests on the conveniences, rests on the convenience of having a bottled beverage plastic bottle beverage in our hand or I think I'm going to say on the go, or go. I was thinking of this idea, right, writers, of the convenience of, part of that blame rests upon our on the go convenience, or our on the go convenience, or on the go convenience rests upon our on the go convenience. Or we carry these plastic bottles in our hand as we hurry to our next destination. Indeed, that convenience should come with a cost. Indeed, that convenience should be charged. Therefore, people should 10 minutes and 35 seconds remaining, right, writers? Therefore, people should pay extra tax when they buy drinks. And you could, of course, say purchase when they purchase drinks in plastic bottles, when they buy drinks in plastic bottles. Okay, let's take a look, right, writers, and then I will use this to make my conclusion and then start my body paragraph along with a counter argument. Plastic bottles have invaded our planet. They can be found on our roadways, waterways, and even our bodies. These bottles also end up in species who make the sea and land their home. I may adjust that a little bit, right, writers, but I'm going to keep going. Why have we become so inundated with all this plastic rubbish? Part of that blame rests upon our on the go convenience, for we carry these plastic bottles in our hand as we hurry to our next destination. Indeed, that convenience should be charged. I think I'm going to say, indeed, that convenience should come at a cost. Therefore, people should, and maybe I should say we should pay an extra tax when they buy drinks, but therefore people when we buy drinks, I think I'm going to change that. Therefore, we should pay extra tax when we buy drinks in plastic bottles. Um, so I part of that is because I have right writers this we within it, and so it sounds odd to then change the point of view. And so I prefer to stick with the we. I mean, I'm part of the human race as well. So yeah, I should pay an extra tax when I buy a drink in a plastic bottle. Okay, so now I want to copy this, right, writers. So I'm going to take my last sentence. I'm going to make that the first sentence of my conclusion. And then I'm going to borrow the rest of my introduction. And I'm pretty much going to rearrange it so we have a conclusion here. So, therefore, we should pay an extra tax when we buy drinks in plastic bottles. Um, our obsession with on the go convenience. So, I'm borrowing that, right, writers? Our obsession with on the go convenience should come at a cost. Okay, so I sort of addressed that part. Otherwise, we may find ourselves. Ooh, I am running out of time, right, writers? I have 6 minutes and 35 seconds remaining. Otherwise, we may find ourselves. Therefore, we should pay extra tax when we buy drinks in plastic bottles. Our obsession with on the go convenience should come at a cost. Otherwise, we may find ourselves. A serious plastic predicament. Otherwise, we may find ourselves in a serious plastic predicament. Maybe I want to go a little stronger on that. Catastrophic. Plastic Planet. Ooh, I like that, right, writers, because I started with the invasion. So I think I like that better. Right, writers. Okay, so that remaining, now I leave myself with 5 minutes to come up with reasons why we should pay that extra tax. Well, obviously, it's about, the tax can be used there for our environment. We can use it for research and development. We can use that money to, clean up municipalities or local cities. So, all kinds of opportunities for this tax. Therefore, we should pay extra tax when we buy drinks in plastic bottles. Um, Tax dollars can be used in many helpful ways. For example, we can use the funds to clean up our environment. For example, we can use the funds to clean up our environment. In addition, 3 minutes and 19 seconds remaining, right, writers? And I'm saying dollars, right, writers, and really, I should say taxes, tax. This extra tax can be used in many helpful ways. For example, we can use the funds to clean up our environment. In addition, money can be used to open and operate more plastic recycling facilities. Funds can be used furthermore. Taxes can be used for research and development efforts, for research and development in determining how we can replace or how we can just trying to find other ways how we can maybe replace these plastic containers, these plastic bottles. 1 minute and 26 seconds remaining. Furthermore, taxes can be used for research and development and determining how best how we can replace in determining how to replace these plastic bottles. And then I need to put in that counter argument, right, writers? Although critics may argue that taxes create an undue burden on consumers. 30 seconds. We already have a crisis on our hands. We already have a plastic crisis on our hands. Um, 4 seconds, right, writers? All right, so that will do it, right, writers. We are at the end. We are at 20 minutes here, and so let's go ahead and take a look at what we have and sort of critique. Usually I just do an overall critique on how this essay went. It wasn't terrible. Let me go ahead and do a word count here. It was okay. I wished I'd had, of course, a little bit more time. 202 words, not too bad. It's fair. It's a fair essay. I do feel strongly about this. I mean, I definitely think we should have taxes on plastic bottles, but I digress, and let's go to the essay because we can have a big conversation about this. I mean, I think it would be more interesting to have a conversation about this online. And so please go ahead and make a comment, offer some suggestions on solutions to this particular issue, rather than, again, us just sort of complaining about it and not really coming up with ways to solve the problem. So I'm definitely one of those people that I always want to help. I always want to help solve problems. And so that aligns more with my values. And so I would love to hear your comments on ways that you might suggest on how to solve, or how you have individually solved the plastic bottle crisis, even in your own individual world. Would love to see your comments on that online. Okay, right, writers, let's go ahead and take it from the top. We'll take a look at the entire essay, the intro, the body, and conclusion. As you can see visually, it goes from large paragraph, medium sized paragraph, to small sized paragraph. Here we go, right, writers. Plastic bottles have invaded our planet. They can be found on our roadways, waterways, and even our bodies. These bottles also end up in species who make the sea and land their home. Why have we become so inundated with all this plastic rubbish? Part of that blame rests upon our on the go convenience, for we carry these plastic bottles in our hand as we hurry to our next destination. Indeed, that convenience should come at a cost. Therefore, we should pay extra tax when we buy drinks in plastic bottles. This extra tax can be used in many helpful ways. For example, we can use the funds to clean up our environment. In addition, the money can be used to open and operate more plastic recycling facilities. Furthermore, taxes can be used for research and development in determining how to replace these plastic bottles. Although critics may argue that taxes create an undue burden on consumers, we already have a plastic crisis on our hands. Therefore, we should pay extra tax when we buy drinks in plastic bottles. Our obsession with on the go convenience should come at a cost. Otherwise, we may find ourselves in a catastrophic plastic planet. Okay, I really love how I sort of ended with how I began. So, this idea of the plastic bottles invading our planet, and then, finding ourselves in a catastrophic plastic planet. I loved how I did that. I do not always do that, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. So, I've got to give myself a pat on the back for that, right, writers? Also, I did bring in the critics. Now, I quickly dismiss them by just saying, well, we've got this plastic crisis. But that really does not address what I brought up, or what the critics may argue, which is that the critics say that taxes create an undue burden on consumers. So, how could I have addressed that by focusing on this burden on consumers? By coming back with, we already have a plastic crisis on our hands. I would absolutely argue that is a very weak comeback, and you want to stay on the topic. So that is, well, how can I address this burden on consumers? And I should have done that within the context of that counter argument. When you're presenting the counter argument, make sure that you respond back to the counter argument rather than just going broad and just saying, well, we have a plastic crisis. We have, because honestly, you can do that about everything. We already have a crisis on our hands. And so by doing that, you're not doing a solid job in addressing the critic's point of view or your opponent's point of view. So I just wanted to point that out. I did come up with very specific ways, very specific reasons, or ways in which we can use these tax um, funds. But overall, not too bad considering, right, writers, this paragraph, this body paragraph was pretty much constructed in about, 6.5 minutes. And as far as the introduction goes, even though I begin quite abrupt and quite strong with plastic bottles have invaded our planet, I actually thought it worked. And I was pretty pleased with my introduction. I love this idea of this on the go convenience. I like how I bring that up in my conclusion. And, I thought I made a pretty good argument of just like, hey, if we want this on the go convenience, then we should pay for it. It should come at a cost for, just carrying these bottles around everywhere we go. So that said, right, writers, I hope that this video was helpful, useful. I hope the post critique here was also of benefit to you as you address your own writing topics in your classrooms or in your university courses. And so I, again, just hope that this is all very helpful, useful, or maybe if you are taking tests, which involve you writing under time constraints. Take care, right, writers. Thank you again so much for subscribing, recommending this channel to others. I appreciate you. Love you guys. Until next time, cruise out. Bye bye.